My name's Chloe. I'm 29, a lawyer, not the kind you see on TV, but the real deal. Work's my life, or at least it was until that messed up morning my car decided to die on me. Standing there, on the edge of the road, watching the tow truck haul my car away, I was fuming. Late for work, with no ride, and my phone dying. Just great. Then this guy, Mike, stops by. First thing he says, "Looks like you could use a hand." He's casual, driving this old pickup that's seen better days, but there's something about him. I'm thinking, do I really want to get into a stranger's truck? But then, what choice did I have? Only if you're heading towards downtown, I said, trying not to sound as desperate as I felt. Downtown it is. Hop in. He shot back with a grin that could disarm you at 20 paces. His confidence was something else. The ride was something out of a movie. We talked, or more like, he did most of the talking. Told me about his job in construction, how he loves it but hates waking up early. I shared bits about my lawyering, careful not to dive too deep into the boring details. You always pick up strangers? I asked, half joking. Only the ones who look like they won't murder me in my sleep. He laughed. That got me. His humor, it was dry, kind of like mine. We exchanged numbers before he dropped me off. In case your car decides to bail on you again, he said. I rolled my eyes, but smiled. Didn't think much of it then. Work was a blur, but I couldn't shake off the morning's adventure. Mike's number burned a hole in my phone. On a whim, I texted him. My car's a traitor, but you're not. Coffee? He replied almost instantly. Thought you'd never ask. Mike and I, we clicked. Not just on the surface, but deep down. He got my jokes, didn't mind my rants about work, and somehow, seeing him became the best part of my day. Weird how life works. One day you're cursing the heavens for a broken down car, and the next, you're waiting for a text from the guy who offered you a ride. That ride changed everything. Looking back, it's funny how moments like these, totally random, unplanned, can set the course of your whole life. But back then, I was just enjoying the ride, pun intended. Meeting Mike was a breath of fresh air, a reminder that sometimes, the best things come from the most unexpected places. And as for my car, well, it got fixed, but I found myself hoping for more mornings like that one, stranded or not. And sure enough, he called later that week, asking me out. We met up at this No Frills Cafe, nothing fancy, just a cozy spot where we could talk. And talk we did. It was easy, like we'd known each other for ages. He made me laugh, listened to my rants, and somehow, time just flew by. After Mike and I got serious, he started talking about meeting his family. I was nervous, sure, but figured it was just another step in our thing. Mike had told me loads about his mom and sister, how they were this tight little clan since forever. I respected that. But nothing could have prepped me for the actual meet. We pulled up to their house, a cozy-looking place with a wild garden out front. Mike had this brace yourself look as we walked up. Remember, they're a bit intense, he warned, ringing the bell. Intense? I echoed, raising an eyebrow. I'm a lawyer, Mike. I deal with intense for breakfast. The door swung open, and there stood his mom, Carol, and sister, Lucy. First impressions? Carol had the scrutinizing gaze that could peel paint, and Lucy seemed to mirror her, minus a few years. Mike. And you must be Chloe, Carol said, her voice sweet but her eyes doing a full audit. Come in, come in. The living room was like stepping into a different era, all antique furniture and photos. Mike introduced me properly, and we sat down, the air thick with anticipation. So, Chloe, Carol started, all casual. Mike tells us you're a lawyer. That must be interesting. Yeah, it's got its moments, I replied, trying to keep it light. Lucy chimed in. Must rake in a pretty penny, huh? I laughed, a bit taken aback. Well, it pays the bills, and then some. Mike shot me a look, a mix of apology and I told you so. The conversation steered into downright nosy territory real quick. Carol leaned in. But exactly how much are we talking? You know, just out of curiosity. Ah, trade secret. I quipped, hoping my smile hid my discomfort. Mike tried to change the subject, bless him, but the two were like bloodhounds on a scent. After dinner, which was an interrogation disguised as a meal, I heard them in the living room, speculating about my salary based on the brands I wore and the car I drove. Mike found me in the kitchen, refilling my glass. Hey, they're just protective. Don't mind them. Protective? I muttered, swirling my drink. Feels more like an inquisition. We tried to make the best of the rest of the evening, but it was clear there was a gap between us and them. As we left, Carol's too sweet goodbye and Lucy's smug wave felt like a challenge. On the drive back, Mike kept apologizing. They can be a bit much. I'm sorry, Chloe. It's fine, I said, though it wasn't, really. Just wasn't expecting the Spanish Inquisition. Mike laughed, that easy sound I'd fallen for. No one expects the Spanish Inquisition. It was our first real test, meeting his family. I thought back to my own, no-nonsense folks who valued privacy and respect. Mike's family was another world, one where boundaries seemed optional and every detail of your life was up for debate. But I liked Mike a lot. Enough to weather a bit of family drama. Still, as we headed home, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Little did I know how right I was. Marrying Mike was like a whirlwind. Everything happened so fast, from the proposal to planning the wedding. I thought maybe, just maybe, tying the knot would smooth things over with his mom, Carol, and his sister, Lucy. Spoiler alert, I was wrong. Our wedding day was a blur of flowers, vows, and a small sea of faces. Despite the rush, I caught Carol and Lucy throwing looks that could curdle milk. I brushed it off, focusing on Mike and the new chapter we were starting. At the reception, Carol cornered me. Chloe, dear, this is quite the event. You must have spent a fortune. I forced a smile. It's a special day. We wanted it to be memorable. Lucy piped up from behind her mom. Yeah, memorable and expensive. Hope Mike knows what he's signed up for. I bit back a sharper retort. We're both happy. That's what matters. The tension didn't end with the wedding. If anything, it ramped up. Carol and Lucy started dropping by our place unannounced, each visit an exercise in patience. They critiqued everything from my cooking to how I decorated our apartment. One evening, they outdid themselves. Carol, gloved hand and all, dragged her finger across the top of our bookshelf and sked at the dust she found. Really, Chloe, cleanliness is next to godliness, she said, smirking. Lucy was quick to join in. Yeah, and I guess we're living among mortals here. I clenched my jaw, counting to 10 in my head. Well, I didn't realize we were hosting royalty. My mistake. Mike, ever the peacemaker, tried to laugh it off. Come on, you three. Let's not start World War III over a little dust. But the visits grew more frequent and their comments more cutting. I started dreading the sound of the doorbell. Each time they left, I felt more like an intruder in my own home. I finally broke down and told Mike how I was feeling. Your mom and sister, they're making my life hell. It's like they're marking their territory, and I'm the outsider. Mike looked torn. I know it's tough, but they're family. They just need time to adjust. I'll talk to them, okay? But talking seemed to translate to nodding along while they ranted about me not being good enough. Things reached a boiling point one day when they came over, criticizing the dinner I'd made. This is interesting, Carol said, poking at her food. Lucy snorted. Interesting is one word for it. Fed up, I snapped. You know, not everyone can be a Michelin star chef. If you don't like it, maybe next time, you can cook. That shut them up for all of 5 seconds. Mike's attempt to smooth things over didn't help much. Chloe's right. Let's appreciate the effort, okay? The effort felt futile, though. No matter what I did, it was never enough. They wanted me to change, to mold into whatever perfect daughter-in-law image they had in their heads. But that wasn't me. I'd hit my limit with Carol and Lucy's endless nagging and snide remarks. Their arrogance was something else, like they were the queens of some small kingdom and I was the unwelcome commoner. I'd told Mike about how they were grinding me down, hoping he'd step in. His response? "I'll talk to them," he said, his voice so wishy-washy it made me see red. It was clear as day he didn't want to rock the boat, preferring to stand on the sidelines of this mess. That was the last straw for me. I wasn't about to play the silent sufferer in my own home. If Mike wasn't going to stand up to them, I sure as hell would. The next time they decided to grace us with their presence, I had a plan. We were all sitting around the dinner table, the air already thick with tension. I saw my moment and took it. "Mike's got something he wants to say," I declared, throwing him a look that I hoped would light a fire under him. Mike went red, fumbling for words. Yeah. Mom, Lucy, you should really show Chloe some respect," he mumbled, barely meeting anyone's eyes. You could have heard a pin drop. Carol's face went from 0 to furious in a heartbeat. "Respect?" she spat, her anger not aimed at Mike, but squarely at me. "I will not let you cause a rift between my son and me." The room felt like it was spinning. Here we were, the whole sorry mess out in the open. Mike was squirming, looking anywhere but at us. Carol was in full battle mode, and Lucy? She just sat there, smirking like she was watching her favorite show. "I'm not trying to start anything," I shot back, my voice steady even if my insides were anything but. "I'm just saying, this is my home too. I deserve to be treated with some kind of decency." Carol snorted, a sound full of disdain. "Decency? This isn't about decency. It's about you trying to wedge yourself between me and my children." The accusation was ludicrous. All I'd ever wanted was to find some common ground, to be part of their family, not tear it apart. But standing there, facing Carol's wrath and Mike's silence, I felt a cold realization settle in. Maybe this was a battle I couldn't win. As the evening spiraled into a blur of heated words and cold silences, I wondered how we'd ever recover. Mike's half-hearted attempt at support had only thrown gasoline on the fire, and now I was the villain in Carol's story, the woman who dared to stand up for herself. The confrontation had been meant to clear the air, to finally draw some boundaries. Instead, it felt like I'd only succeeded in drawing battle lines, with me on one side and the family I'd hoped to join on the other. And Mike? He was still somewhere in the middle, unwilling or unable to choose a side. After that fight, my life turned upside down. Carol, my mother-in-law, made it her mission to make my existence a living hell. She'd pop over when I was dead on my feet from work, starting drama out of thin air. And when Mike got home, there she was, all tears and sob stories, claiming I was the villain, hurling insults her way. Mike, bless him, fell for it every time. We'd end up in arguments, him siding with Carol, leaving me feeling like I was taking crazy pills. It was like I was the outsider in my own marriage, speaking a language no one else understood. But it didn't stop there. A friend of mine let slip that Lucy was out there, telling anyone who'd listen that I was dirty in my work, hinting I was pocketing client money without paying taxes. That was the last straw. I'm no saint, but I don't mess around with my profession. I called Lucy, my words sharp as knives. You know, spreading lies about someone's work is called slander. And that can get you sued. Lucy's bravado crumbled real quick over the phone. I'll stop. I didn't mean anything by it, she stammered, the fear in her voice clear as day. But the damage was done. She went crying to Mike, playing the victim, and before I knew it, I was getting an earful. "Why are you bullying Lucy? Can't you see she's scared of you?" Mike's anger was a red flag, signaling deeper issues in our marriage. Every day, I felt more like an outsider, a stranger in a world where Carol and Lucy reigned supreme, and Mike was their loyal subject. The more I saw it, the more I realized, I was the odd one out, always going to be second to his mother and sister. The battles at home were one thing, but Lucy trying to tarnish my professional reputation? That was a low blow, even for them. I started to wonder if Mike would ever really have my back, or if I was doomed to be the villain in their twisted family drama. The phone call from Carol had been as pleasant as nails on a chalkboard. Lucy's tying the knot. We're celebrating at Le Grande Plateau this Friday. You're coming, she stated, her voice broking no argument. My heart sank. The last thing I wanted was to spend an evening in the lion's den, but Mike was all about mending fences. It could be good for us, a fresh start, he argued with that eternal optimism of his. Reluctantly, I agreed. Le Grande Plateau was the kind of place where the prices on the menu made you do a double take, wondering if you'd accidentally wandered into a car dealership instead. Carol, Lucy, the groom-to-be, and his parents were already seated, attacking a seafood platter like it was their last meal. No sooner had we taken our seats than Carol dropped the bomb. Chloe, darling, we thought it'd be lovely if you covered tonight's feast. A small gesture to cement your place in our family, she announced, loud enough for neighboring tables to overhear. I nearly spat out my drink. You're joking, right? You expect me to foot the bill for this extravaganza? The table fell eerily silent, all eyes on me. Lucy, never one to miss a beat, added, "Oh, come on, don't be such a tightwad, Chloe. It's not every day your sister-in-law gets engaged." I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. Look, I came here to show support, not to bankroll Lucy's engagement party. This is beyond ridiculous. Carol's expression hardened. I specifically chose this venue with the expectation you'd contribute. It's about showing respect, Chloe. My gaze flickered to Mike, desperate for him to say something, anything, in my defense. His response floored me. She's right, Chloe. Just pay. We don't need more drama. You'll pay, otherwise we'll get divorced. I was flabbergasted. So, it's pay up or get out? Is that my choice? Are you seriously siding with them on this? Carol's smirk told me everything I needed to know. She thought she had won. But something inside me refused to let that happen. You want a divorce over this? Fine. Let's do it. I'm not your puppet. You could have heard a pin drop. The shock on their faces was a bittersweet victory. I stood, my chair scraping loudly against the tile. I've had enough. Enough of the manipulation, the insults, and this sham of a marriage. As I stormed out, their bitter words followed me, but they bounced off me like I was made of steel. I was done. Done playing the villain in their messed up family drama. Driving away, a torrent of emotions overwhelmed me. Fear, relief, anger, but above all, a sense of liberation. I'd finally stood up for myself, drawn a line in the sand. After the restaurant showdown, I went back to what used to be our place, now just a space filled with memories I couldn't wait to leave behind. Packing was a blur, each item a reminder of a life that felt like someone else's story. Once everything was boxed up, I filed for divorce. No dramatic confrontations, just a quiet end to a chapter one was ready to close for good. Word got around quickly, not just about the divorce, but about the fallout from that disastrous dinner. Turns out, Carol had tried to pull the same stunt with the groom's parents, insisting they cover the extravagant bill. That backfired spectacularly. The groom, fed up with the family's antics, called off the engagement with Lucy. You'd think that'd give them a moment's pause, a second of self-reflection, but no. Instead, Carol and Lucy pinned the blame squarely on me. According to the rumor mill, I was the villain of the piece, a greedy, heartless woman who'd torn their family apart. It would have been laughable if it wasn't so pathetic. The aftermath of that explosive dinner wasn't pretty. Word got around fast, too fast. My phone was buzzing nonstop, texts and calls pouring in from friends and, unfortunately, acquaintances who'd heard some version of the night's events. The rumors were wild, painting me as everything from a heartless villain to a downtrodden victim. I ignored most of them, but it was one call that I couldn't just swipe away, my mom. Chloe, honey, what's this mess I'm hearing about you and Mike? And something about a restaurant blow up? Her voice was a mix of concern and confusion. I sighed, rubbing the bridge of my nose. It's a long story, Mom. The short version? I stood up for myself, and things didn't go well. There was a pause on the other end, and then, well, I always said that woman was trouble. You're better off without them, you know. Hearing my mom say it out loud, it hit different. It was one thing to walk away, but another to hear that maybe, just maybe, I did the right thing. Yeah, I know. Just didn't expect everything to implode like this. A few weeks after I'd moved out, I ran into one of our mutual friends, Jenna, at the coffee shop. She wasted no time diving into the latest gossip. Chloe, I heard about the split, and everything else. Carol's been saying some wild stuff, you know? I took a sip of my coffee, already knowing where this was headed. Let me guess, it's all my fault? I'm the wicked witch who ruined their lives. Jenna looked uncomfortable, but nodded. Yeah, something like that. Lucy's engagement is off, and they're saying you're to blame for the dinner fiasco, too. I couldn't help but laugh, they sound bitter. Of course, they are. Because it's easier to blame me than admit they're a pair of entitled, manipulative. Hey, I know it's tough, Jenna cut in. But you're better off without that drama. Despite the rumors, the whispers, and the blame game, there was a sense of relief that came with being free of it all. Free of Carol's constant meddling, Lucy's passive-aggressive jabs, and the never-ending cycle of drama that came with being part of their family. As I navigated my new life, word got back to me about Mike and his current living situation. Turns out, after our divorce, he moved right back in with Carol and Lucy. The three of them, all under one roof again. The thought brought a mix of emotions, but mostly, I felt a strange sense of relief. It was confirmation that walking away was the right choice, not just for me, but for my peace of mind. I heard through the grapevine, snippets of conversations at local cafes, and the occasional overheard chat at the grocery store, that their antics hadn't stopped with me. If anything, they ramped up. Stories of Carol's latest schemes and Lucy's outlandish demands were making the rounds, painting a picture of a family consumed by their own greed and arrogance. Their reputation in town took hit after hit, each rumor another nail in the coffin of their social standing. The weeks turned into months, and slowly, the drama that had once consumed my life started to feel like a distant memory. I was settling into my new normal, finding peace in the quiet moments and solace in my work. One crisp autumn evening, as I was leaving the office, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Alex, a colleague I'd become close friends with over the last few months. Drinks tonight? You need a break, and I've got some big news. Curious and in dire need of a distraction, I agreed. We met at a cozy little bar downtown, a world away from the high-stakes drama that used to define my evenings. So, spill it. What's this big news? I asked, sipping on my drink, the warmth of the whiskey a welcome reprieve from the chill outside. Alex's eyes sparkled with excitement. I'm starting my own firm, and I want you on board. You're one of the best lawyers I know, Chloe. What do you say? The offer took me by surprise. It was the kind of opportunity I'd dreamed of, but in the whirlwind of my personal life, I'd forgotten how much I longed for a fresh professional start too. Wow, Alex. That's incredible. I'm honored, really. Let me think it over. The next morning, I woke up feeling more determined than ever. I called Alex, my decision made. Let's do it. I'm in. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of planning and preparation. We found an office space, started building our client list, and every day felt like a step towards something exciting, something mine. And then, amidst the chaos of starting the new firm, I bumped into Mike. It was the first time we'd seen each other since the divorce was finalized. The encounter was awkward, charged with the ghosts of our shared past. Chloe, hey. You're looking good, he said, the words feeling like a peace offering of sorts. Thanks, Mike. You too. How's everything? We're getting by. Mom and Lucy, they're still them, you know? I nodded, no longer feeling the sting of their names. I'm sure they are. Listen, Mike, I wish you all the best, really. As I walked away, I realized that this was what moving on felt like. It wasn't forgetting the past but learning from it, not dwelling on the hurt but focusing on the growth that came from it. I was moving forward, one step at a time, into a future that was all mine to shape.